Here's a good one. When does fescue toxicity have a higher likelihood? So, with the fescue toxicity, there's in the springtime, obviously, when the spring flush hits and everything puts on a seed head, there's some of that endophyte in the seed. Actually, a lot of the endophyte is in the seed head. And cattle aren't usually eating the seed heads of the grass, but it's a...
If it's the only thing they have available to eat, though, that's when you get problems.
That's when you're going to have problems with it. Also, the bottom 2 to 3 inches of the fescue plant, from the ground up to 2 to 3 inches is where the highest concentration of the endophyte is located. So if you're forcing your cattle to graze it down to the roots, that's when you're really going to see a lot of fescue foot and endophyte problems. Whereas if you're just taking the top third of the plant, there's not a lot of that endophyte in that top third, and so you're not going to see that much in the summertime. And then in the wintertime, once, like I was saying earlier, once you get some of that cold exposure, whether that's frost, snow, cold rain, that endophyte begins to kind of break down, and it becomes less and less as the winter goes on. And so as the winter goes on, that fescue actually becomes more and more palatable for the cattle and less toxic to the cattle. So that's kind of an interesting thing.
So managing height
and the fescue and the toxicity, or the endophyte gives the fescue its hardiness in the wintertime. It's like Greg had explained it one time. It's like part of the...
Yeah, because what the endophyte actually is it's a fungus that's growing like inside the tissue of the plant. And so that fungus actually has a mutualistic relationship with the plant. Like it's giving the plant like certain compounds that the plant doesn't necessarily have access to, and the plant's getting in return, the fungus is getting in return some a place to live and some compounds or whatever in exchange from the plant. And so it the fact that it's there makes the plant like healthier almost. Like it gives it more of that resistance.
It's almost like an immune system for the fescue.
It just the fact that it's there makes it more hardy. There are low endophyte varieties of fescue that people have developed and bred, and they're nowhere near as hardy as the toxic variety. And if your cattle are used to it, so if you cull for it, when you start to see fescue toxicity, it usually shows up as cut off circulation to like the lower extremities, and so they get swollen hocks and they'll be like sort of limping. That's a sign of fescue toxicity. Usually if the cattle are sort of adapted to it, if they get it, they'll sort of get over that fescue toxicity in as little as a few days and as long as a couple weeks, but eventually they'll get over it. If they don't get over it and they start to have serious issues, you just get rid of the animal. And if you keep culling for that over time, you're going to end up with a herd that's actually adapted to that level of toxicity that you have in your pasture, and so it becomes less of a big deal. And then you just get a lot of benefits as a result. That toxicity factor, as long as you manage for height and as long as you manage your herd to deal with it, it's actually a great thing.
It is.